say this data is this new data, input data belong to the class of this shown in the form of this circle only. And if our new data here, then you can conclude the new data belong to this type of the class. So you can say that the input data have the similar features close to their its neighbors. So this is the basic idea of the KNN. Yes, please. There is some noise. And we can use this KNN learning model for the classification as well as for the regression type problems. But it is oftenly used for the classification problems only. But you are free to use it for the regression as well as for the classification problems. Is this idea okay to all of you? Yes, please. Is this figure clear to everybody? Participants, please respond. Nischay, is this figure clear? Mayank Vakwa. The basic idea of the KNN is based on the similarity between the new data and the available data. Okay. So the new data close to which type of the given data, you can predict that the new data belong to that class only. So this is the basic idea of KNN. Okay, this is the non-parametric technique. It means it doesn't make any assumption of the on the given data. Non-parametric technique we call it, right? So you can give any type of the data and that data will be processed by the KNN to make the prediction. Is there any issue with some of the participant? Amrit, AP? Okay. And we call, yes, please. Yes, Amrit.
Sorry, sir. Mute हो गया.
Okay, no problem, Amrit. And the very new point about the KNN that it is also named as lazy learner because it doesn't learn from the training data immediately. Instead, it stores the data set and at the time of the prediction, it performs an action on the given input data. It means you can say whatever we were giving in the training part in the different type of the models, there is nothing like for the KNN. It means no new type, no learning is there whenever we will execute the fit method of the KNN model. So we call it as a lazy model. Lazy model hai. Okay. And one more point you can get from the last one, it stores the data set in the training phase only, and whenever we will get the new data, new input data, then it will classify the data into the category that is much similar to the new data. It means you have the new data and you will have to find the category of the data which are closer to this new one. The definition of this closure is somewhat dependent on the distance. So we'll have to find out the distance, and on the basis of the distance metric, we can find out the data sets which are closer to the new data. Okay. So you can say this is the very simplest type of the learning algorithm. It uses complete data as the training data. It is your choice. You can use full data available as the training data and predict the data of the output feature of the testing data based on the similarity measures. That is the distance between the training data and the given input data. That is your testing data. So you are fully dependent on the similarity measure, and this similarity measure is used in the form of the distance, some distance. Okay. So I told you that we can use KNN for the classification purpose as well as for the regression purpose. So how we perform the classification when we have the KNN model in our hand? Classification is performed by a majority vote to its neighbors. Okay. The test data is assigned to a class of its k nearest neighbors, and as you increase the As you increase the value of k is some number basically, accuracy may increase. So just going to the first one, if we have this input data and we have taken k as 4, so we will find out the nearest k neighbors to this data, to this data point. So you can observe from this figure that these data of the class shown in the form of the circle, they are close to this new data point. So you can say the class of the new data is the same as that of those data points. For example, this is my class 0 and this is my class 1. So you can say the new data belongs to class 1 only. Right? And in case of here, this new data belongs to class 0. So I hope the point is now clear to everyone. We have to find out the neighbors of the input data, and then need to find out the classes of all those neighbors. And if the majority of the it is based on the majority of the voting. If class C1 and class C2 are the in the neighborhood of the input data, then whose vote is more than will be given to the input data class. Okay. While in case of regression, we generally take the mean of the output features of the k nearest neighbors of our training testing data. For example, if we have first neighbor as x1, second neighbor as x2, and third neighbor as x4, and fourth neighbor as x4 and x5 here. And we are taking about the regression problem here. And we assume that its output is 10, its output is 12, its output is 14, its output is 16, and its output is 18. So and these are the 5 neighbors of my input data. So what I need to do, I will take the mean of these output data of all 5 neighbors. It means 10 plus 12, 22 plus 36, and in case of regression, the output of this input data will be 14, because we have to take the mean of these output features of k neighbors, and I have assumed that k is 5. So in KNN, k is some number 2, 3, 5, 10 like this, 20, 25, 30, 40 like this. So in you can select the particular value of k. You can save the best value of k for your problem. Okay. Now the point is what type of distance we should use for the KNN model. As you know, we have many type of the distance matrix. First one is the Euclidean distance. The Euclidean distance between 2 points x1 and x1 y1 and x2 y2 is given by this expression. So difference of this and this and difference of this and this, then the square of the error value or difference value, and then we sum up the values and take the square root. The second type of the distance which you can take in the KNN is the Manhattan distance. It is the absolute value of the differences and their sum. And third type of the distance is Chebyshev distance. It is somewhat different than the previous two. What we are doing, we are taking the difference of both the parameters x1 with respect to x2 and y1 with respect to y1, and then taking the largest of these two differences along with their absolute values. So for example, if we have my data set as 10,8, my data point, one data point is 10,8, and second data point is for example 12,10. So what is the Euclidean distance between these 2 points? Yes, write down what is the difference between these 2 points. Kindly don't share with everyone. Please share with me only. Whatever question I ask to you, just share with me, not with everyone. Okay. Right, Ira Sharma, right. Right, good. Okay, Karthik, good. Okay. Answer of everyone is right. Note, Abhishek, it is wrong. Neetu Rani, answer is wrong. Okay, right. No, Pramod, how it is? Pramod, answer is wrong. Okay, the answer is square root of 8. Right? And the answer of most of the participants is okay, is right. Now find out the Manhattan distance between these two data points. So Rilan, wrong है ये. Okay, right. You are calculating second one na. Okay. Okay, right. Good Sanket, good. Okay, very good. So now find out the third type of the distance. Okay, great. Good. No, what कशिश ये क्या है? 2 क्या निकाला आपने? राइट, ठीक है, इज द थर्ड वन ना. ओके, गुड. राइट. सेकंड वाला 4 है. बिल्कुल ठीक है. सो आई होप नाउ यू कैन फाइंड आउट द डिस्टेंस बिटवीन एनी टू डेटा पॉइंट्स. बट in this data point, how many features we have? Okay. So how many features we have in this data point? Right, Tavesi, right. Satvinder, right. So we have 2 features. And now I am taking the case when we have 3 features. For example, the first feature is 10, second feature is 8, and the third feature is 6. This is my one data point, and this is my second data point. First value of the feature is 12, then 10, and then 8. Okay, so you can extend your formula to the data points having more than 2 features. Okay, just show me what is the Euclidean distance between these two data points. Go now, calculate it again.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Which,
Yes, बोलिए. Answer is under root 12. Anji Divakar Thakur. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask Sandeep this side, sir.
Yeah, Sandeep, yes.
So, for example, if we say that the third distance that is little different, but the first two we can say
Yeah.
that are very similar, then which distance to use at which scenario?
That will depend on your data set only.
Data set in the sense,
So
for example,
whatever data you will have for the training purpose, whatever data you will have, you have to check which distance better fits to your given data.
can you give some scenario that this is the scenario?
Yeah,
in which
surely. I am going to program for the first type of distance.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So for this case, the Euclidean distance is under root 12. 4 plus 4 plus 4, that is under root 12. One example I can give you, Sandeep. Hello. Whenever we find out the distance between image pixels and some video frames, we can use this third one and the second one also many times.
Okay, because
For the normal type of the data, just like height and weight, we just try to use the first one only or a second one.
because mostly first one is used, I suppose. That is
Yeah,
the real
most of the time we use the first one, but whenever we take another type of the data, just like image data and video data, there we use different type of the distance metrics. We have some other metrics also, and there they are applicable for that type of the data set.
Okay, feel that second one is meant only to simplify the first one. That instead of
Yeah,
taking,
only just to simplify it, because here we have the square root.
yes, sir.
Because many times whenever we will take the square root, we have to store the value in the form of the decimals.
Right.
You can
floating
say in the
point.
form of floats. So it takes generally more space.
Right.
Because in our programming model, the float variables they take more memory in comparison of your integers.
Right, sir. But the third one, that is little unique one, that what it is meant for, because we can't say
Just like we have many type of the concepts for image and video and other type of the data, there this type of the distances are useful.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so this is the working of the KNN model. Firstly, we need to select what value of k we want. We can any value of k, 1, 2, 3, up to 10, 15, 20. So this is one of the parameter which we can tune. But whenever you will execute your program, you will have to set what value of k you want. So after deciding the value of k, or just after selecting the value of k, what we are going to do, we need to find out the Euclidean distance of the neighbors from the new data. Okay, so now it is also a very different type of the point how we select the neighbors, because whenever we have this type of the data and we don't know who is the neighbor of our new data, for example, our new data is this one. Okay, my new data is of this type. So the question is how to find out the neighbors. That neighbors we will select with the help of the distance only. Okay, so next step is take the k nearest neighbors as per the calculated Euclidean distance. These 2 points are somewhat confusing, maybe confusing to you. How to find out the neighbors? So what we need to do, we find out the distance of this data with each of the points. Because we cannot say if we have the distance between these two data, this one and this one. So what will be the distance between this one and this one? We cannot say without calculating. It may be this data point is very close to this one. So we'll have to calculate the distance of the input data with all of the existing data. Right? So after calculating the distance, we will select k neighbors. K is the same number which we have selected. For example, if I have taken k as 5 or 4, so by using the calculated distance, I will select the k neighbors, 5 neighbors which are closer to this input data. Okay, and then count the number of data points in each category. If I have 5 neighbors and 3 belong to the class 0 and 2 belong to the class 1, then my new data set will belong to the class 0. Okay, so in the last step, we will assign the new input data to that category for which the number of the neighbors is maximum. Is it okay? Yes, please. Okay. Okay, right, bacho, right. So this is the graphical representation of this KNN working. I have taken the same example, but this is drawn by the computer, so you can see it very clearly. In this example, I have 2 classes. This is my 1 class. This is my 2nd class. Okay, and this is my new data. And in this range of the distance, I have 3 data points, 3 neighbors. You can say the 2 neighbors belong to this class, shown in the shown using the green color, and only 1 neighbor belong to the 2nd class, shown in the form of the red star. So you can say now this data point will belong to the this type of the class. Okay. Okay, Satvinder, I will repeat. Sorry, I got your message late. Okay, I am just revising the KNN algorithm within a very small amount of time. So first step is to decide the number of k. Then we will decide calculate the Euclidean distance of the neighbors from the new data. New data is the input data to which we want to make the prediction. And after it, we will decide the k neighbors. We will sort out the k neighbors which are closer to this data, new data. Okay, and among these k neighbors, we will count the number of the data points in each category. Okay, and after it, we will decide the new data points to that category for which the number of the neighbors is maximum. For example, for this case, k equal to 3. 2 neighbors are of this class and 1 neighbor is of this class. So you can say this question mark new data belong to the green class. Okay, green is my B class. So this data belong to the class B. Okay, and for this one we have considered k equal to 3. And if we consider k equal to 7, then what will be the class of the input data? Yes, please. What will be the class of my input data in this case? Class A, Devarth, right? Good. Red is my first class, class A. Okay, red star. Class A, red. Yes, Ira, yes. So I hope now the basic idea of KNN is clear to everyone. And now we have another example. In this example, what we have, there are 3 classes. This is my first class. This is 2nd class, shown as a green circle, and this is my 3rd class, shown as an orange circle. Okay. So what we have shown here, we have calculated the distance of this data point, which is my input data, with each of the existing data points. So we have shown these distances here, right? So if we are taking k equal to 2, what will be the class of this input data? Yes, yellow, lime green, you can say. Yes, this type, this class, which is lime green. Okay, right. Light green, okay, lime green I have written here, na? So you just use the same name. Okay, good. And if we take, you can say k equal to 3, then k equal to 3, 4k equal to 3, lime green, same answer will be there, because in this scenario, we have the 3 k equal to 3, and these are the 3 neighbors: first neighbor, second neighbor, and the third neighbor. Okay, so out of these 3 neighbors, 2 belong to the lime green class. Okay, so for k equal to 3 also we have the same scenario, right? Okay, this I have shown, this I have told you. Okay, so let's start with the programming part. So I will import the required libraries. First is the pandas, numpy, and the pyplot. Pyplot is under this matplotlib library. So my data set is classified data. Okay, so firstly we will read the data set. So let's print this data set. So this is my data set, and in this data set we have 1000 records, and each record has 11 features. So you can note down the use of this index underscore call equal to 0. If I remove this parameter, you can, we have added one more parameter, one more column here, which is the column type, serial number type column. So there, because in this data set, whatever values we have, WWT, WTT, PIT, EQW, SBI, LQE, DQG, these are the features name basically. This is the actual data of some company, and they have provided the data for the classification purpose, but they have changed the name of the features. The names of the features are arbitrary, WTT, PTI, right? So in this data set, you can say we have 1000 records and 11 features. And out of these 11 features, 10 are the independent features and 1 is the output feature. So I am just showing you the output feature. Output feature is this target class. And we have 2 classes in this data set, shown in the form of zeros and 1. One class is represented by 0 and another class is represented by 1. So we have stored the data into the data set variable. So now I am doing some pre-processing on this data set. As we did in the previous lecture. Okay. So you can observe that some of the features were in the range of they are less than 1 or very close to 1, and some of the features are may have large value, just like 2 or something 2. So just to avoid the biasing of the model, what we can do, we can rescale the data set. So for this rescaling purpose, we have a library, standard scaler method we have in the library of pre-processing, and pre-processing is the part of sklearn. So this is the same method which we covered in the previous lecture. We created the object of this standard scaler and given a name to this one, sc_x. And then we have fit method. We execute the fit method on the data set except the last column, which is a class column. You can say dependent column. You can say target column also. So the name of the last column is the target class. This one. So there is no need to rescale the dependent feature or output variable. Okay. So we have this fit method and then code the transform method on the same data set part by dropping the last column, and x equal to 1 means column wise. This is the same type of the method. You can say now you can observe that we are executing the fit first and then transforming the data set. In last lecture also somebody asked me about this one. There we used I think fit underscore transform method. And for the second case, we were just using the transform method. Here it is the same thing. So you can make the concept. We have the fit method, we have the transform method, and we have the fit underscore transform method. Okay. So what this fit method does basically, it finds out the mean and variance of the given data. And then that values of the mean and the standard deviation, they are used by the transform method to pre-process the input data. Okay, so you can say you can call fit method and then call transform. In another sequence, you can directly call fit underscore transform. And whenever you will call fit underscore transform, and in the next statement, if you further need to transform the data set, other part of the data set, then you can directly call the transform. So it is your choice. You can call fit and transform. You can call fit underscore transform directly. And if you need to call it 2 times, then you can call first time fit underscore transform and second time transform. Is it okay? Index column is just to remove the indexing. Otherwise वो दो लाइनें आएंगी, दो कॉलम आएंगे. Fit method, transform method, and fit underscore transform. Okay to everyone? See, what is our requirement? Basically, we need to convert the data set into the normalized distribution form. And to convert the data into the normalized distributed form, we need the mean of the data as well as the standard deviation. And both the variables or parameters, they are fitted to the object by the fit method. So once you call the fit method, you can directly call transform. And if you don't want to call fit and transform, you can call the third method, which is fit underscore transform. So it is your choice. So after this one, we need to convert the data, given data, into a data frame. We have this the data in the variable of scale underscore features. So we have created the data frame of this data, right? And we have specified the number of columns also, except the last one. So if we execute this one, you can observe that we have the data points having value negative also. Some of the negative, some of the positive. Because our Gaussian distribution curve comes out to be in the form of a bell curve. Okay, some of the points, they are in the left side of the zero, and some of the points will be in the right side of the zero. You can say you have the bell type structure of the Gaussian distribution or normal distribution. They have the same meaning, Gaussian or normal, they have the same name. It is the same thing basically. So now we have converted the data into a normalized form. So after this one, okay. Right. Now I am calling this train test split method from this model underscore selection. And we have splitted the data, scaled features, not used this frame. Okay, you can use this one also or this one, not a big difference. And we have told them what is the target variable which is in the data set target class. Okay, this is my input data, you can say this is my output data, and this is the test size. It means 30% data we are going to use. Okay, you can skip this one for the KNN, but for the sake of convention, the same approach is used in the KNN, but nothing, no training is given by the KNN classifier. Okay, it is just to keep the same convention here. So now the third line is to import the K neighbors classifier, and this classifier is in the library of neighbors. And we have created the object of this KN classifiers, K neighbors classifier, and we need to tell them how many neighbors we want. How many neighbors we want to check. For this one, we have the parameter and underscore neighbors. Okay. So I have taken just two values only. I will change the value and then we'll see what happens on my accuracy. And then what we have done, we have trained the model, we have passed these data set X part, X training part and Y training part, and then we predicted. So you can observe where we are passing the training part of both type X as well as Y, but keep in mind there is no training in KNN. Okay, it is just to keep the same convention for the other models. And after this one, we are passing the X part of our testing data. Okay, and the output corresponding to this X data is stored in this variable pred, and we have printed this pred as well as the Y test part. Just let me to execute it. So these are my data sets. These are around 30% data. Okay, and this is the predicted data, and this is my actual data. This one. Total records are 300 because my data set is of 1000 records. I have taken 0.3 as the test size. It means 30% data we have taken for the testing purpose. Now let's do some more thing. We are going to find out the confusion matrix. Otherwise, we cannot say what accuracy we are going to get it. So this is my confusion matrix. I told you in the previous lecture what do we mean by confusion matrix, and this is another parameter which is the classification report. So this is the output of the confusion matrix. You can say, I hope you are able to interpret this matrix. Are you able to interpret what do we mean by 136, 6, 19 and 39? Yes, please. Who will answer? Right. Right. Tvisi, right. It means Ritik Kumar, it is 275. Yes. Right. Incorrect. Right. You have interpreted in the another way also. Okay. Very good. Very good. True prediction are 136 and 139. The values which are along the diagonal, they are the correct predicted values, and they are the values which are at the non-diagonal positions, they are wrongly predicted positions, you can say. So by using the formula of standard precision and recall, you can check the data. You can cross check the data. Note 9. They are 19. Right. Akanksi, right. Can you cross check the precision and recall values as well as F1 score? What is this 91.6, Soumya? You use proper formula of precision and recall. TP by TP plus FP is our precision. This is the accuracy. Soumya, this is the accuracy. Devarth, what is this one? Is this precision or recall? Oh, this is accuracy. But I have just asked 3 numbers: precision, recall, and F1 score. Okay, firstly find out what is the value of precision according to your data. From where you get this number 155? मृदुल, आपने ऐसे चलना बच्चों. 136 plus 6. This is my TP, this is my FP. Sorry. TP equal to 136 and FP equal to 6. Now calculate it. And TN equal to 139 and my FN is it is 19. Now cross check it. Okay, so precision is taken by the system 0.96 because this value 0.957777 is there, so file will be converted to 6 value. So it is 0.96. And recall is TP by TP plus FN. Find out this value also. Okay, it's okay. It is 0.88. It's good. Good, Vinayak, good. So let's do some. Let's play some game with the value of k. Let me to change the value of k to some other number. Let it. I am taking it as a 4 or 5. So I have defined k is equal to 5 now. 5 neighbors I want basically. So are you observing the change? Yes, there is the change. Now we have 135 here in place of 136 and 7 here in place of 6. And in place of 19 I have 10 and in place of 139 I have 148. So you can say there is the significant change in the output. Okay. Is it okay? So if I continue changing the value of k, let's check what is the effect on the performance. I am taking 7. And now let's check what is the effect on the confusion matrix as well as on the performance record. So there is some changes also. 134 here and 8, 11 and 147. Let's change it further. Suppose I define it as 11. So neighbors, I want 11. Nearest neighbors. So there is some changes also. So you can say changes will be there whenever we will change the value of k, value of the nearest neighbors. So let's check it how to find out the best value of k. I am just copying and pasting my program part. Okay. So for this purpose, we have written a block of code. We are going to execute the program for 40 times. So for the first time, nearest neighbor will be 1. For the second time, it is k and it will be up to 40 whenever we will execute this block of code. And this is my... Okay, just wait. Please. So in this for loop, for I in range 1 to 40, we have executed this object of the nearest neighbor. We have created objects in the for loop, so it will be created whenever we will execute the program or the for loop again and again, and we will fit the data in our object and then we'll make the prediction and we'll store this input data, this output data, which is my this is the predicted data basically, and this is the test data. If they are not equal, it means there is the error. Okay. So this is the error case, and we have taken the mean of this error for each of the for loop. Right. So for each of the execution of the for loop, we will get one value. And this is my error. And whenever we will execute, whenever we will subtract error from 1, it is my accuracy. Okay. If my error is 0.05, it means the accuracy is around 0.95. You can say 95%. So let's check it and try to draw it graphically. Just wait. So this is my parameters passed to the plot. We have defined the figure size. Just execute it one time. Okay. This is my accuracy, not error rate. Basically, I am changing this string. So we have defined the figure size, which is 10 by 6. So this area is 10 by 6. Along x-axis it is 10, and along the y-axis it is 6. So if you change the parameter here, area of your plot will be changed. Okay. So now we have got the larger size of our graph. And you can observe this plot that we have along the x-axis the k value, and along the y-axis we have the accuracy rate. So whenever our k is increasing, you can observe the accuracy rate is increasing. For the first value k 1 equal, it was around 94, and then it is decreased to less than 92%, and then it increased further and then get down. In this area you can observe that the value of the accuracy is larger than its neighbor of the left side as well as of the right side. So you can take any value from this range. You can take k equal to 15, 14, 12, 30. Okay. So you need to do this type of the execution to find out the correct value of k which fits to your data set. And in this plot, just wait, bacho. In this plot, what we have done basically, this is my range that is along the x-axis. This is my data which will be shown along the y-axis. Color is red and a line style is dashed. Marker is equal to O or 0 type, whatever. So you can pass it like this here. So if we execute it again, so we have changed the marker. Okay, now my marker is O. Okay, marker color is blue. Blue is not there. No? Just wait, bacho. Okay, now. And marker size is 10. If I increase the marker size to 15, then the size of these dots will increase, these circles will increase. So this is just simple purpose only, but we are interested in the value of k only. So for your data set, you need to plot this type of the graph, and you can observe visually which value of k will show to your data set. Okay. I can do reverse of this one. Instead of taking the accuracy rate, we can take the error rate also. So let's try that also. So I need to change it here. It should be error underscore rate. So when I execute this part and again this one, so now you can observe the graph is purely reversed to the first one. Right. So you can observe from this part that from k equal to 11 to k equal to around 16, 17, the error is minimum. Is it okay? Yes, my dear participants, Mayank Wadhwa, Geeta Kochar, Anji, Geeta. Yes, please. Have you any doubt in this program? Yes, please. ओके यस यस गीता बताइए. ओके गीता ओके. I am taking a 5-minute break. Then I will start another part of this KNN. We will try to implement the KNN from scratch. Okay, so we have included pandas library, math is included. If we need math dot something, then we can use it directly. Okay, so after calling the constructor of this class load underscore iris, we will get the data set in this variable. We have given the variable name as iris only. And the data part of this iris variable contains the input features or independent features, you can say. So everybody knows what is the meaning of this one and this one. All rows and column up to 4, 0, 1, 2, 3. It means we have dropped the last part. Okay. And we can get it from the iris.target. So y contains the dependent features data. This is very simple part. We have just loaded the data in our memory and we will further do the processing using this data set. So after it, we have created the data frame by using iris.data and we have the columns iris.features name. Just print it. I am just printing this part of my data frame. So now you can see I have fully loaded this data set. First part is, this is the index only, serial number you can say. First part, independent feature is sepal length. Second one is the sepal width. Third one is the petal length, and last one is the petal width. So now let's include a output variable in this data frame only. So we have written name of the column in the left side and equal to total values of our dependent feature, and then printed the head part of this data frame. So if we execute this one, what we are going to get as output, this part only. So we have five rows. So by default, head method prints the first outputs the first 5 rows of our data set. Okay, so now we have the target data set data part in our data frame. You can observe it. All values are of zero flower type. So we have created the data frame using our data which was loaded using iris underscore load constructor of the class. So now I am going to write a method for the Euclidean distance. We are going to use Euclidean distance in this program. So let's write a method. We know whenever we need to write a method in Python, we have the keyword def. This is the method name and this is the parameters. So we have passed two parameters, one row and the second row. Okay, and this is the colon here, colon is required here. So have you created some functions in Python? Yes, please. Jaspreet. Jaspreet. Geeta Kochar. Am I audible? Am I audible? अरे भाई आप तो बोलिए ना. Okay. Okay. So what we have done till now, I have just loaded the data which is in the library of the Python load underscore iris, and we have stored the data in a data frame. Because programmatically it is easy to handle the data whenever we store in the data frame. Okay. So now we have created a function whose name is Euclidean underscore distance. You can give any name, ed1, ed2 or Euclidean underscore distance. It is your choice. Def is the keyword which is required here. Then the function name and then the parameters. If we have more than one parameter, we need to use comma between the parameters. And colon is also compulsory here. Okay. So we have the distance variable equal to 0.0. Just initialize the distance parameter, distance variable, and then we have written a loop. Okay. So what this loop is doing, it is taking first row, first parameter and finding its length. Right. So this function will execute n-1 number of times. So in our row, we'll have the input data as well as the output data, dependent data as well as the input data. Okay. So we will skip the last one because we are not going to use the dependent variable in the calculation of distance. Right. So after this one, what we have done, we have calculated the distance here in the same way as we did numerically when I started the lecture. Difference of ith feature of both the rows and their sum and then square. Okay. And we have find out the distance, total distance we have find out. Then we took the square root of this distance variable. Right. Is this one okay? Euclidean distance function is okay. Okay, Sanket, okay. Yes, Aswani Rathi, thank you. Now let's try to execute this method by taking some data. So what I have done, I have taken the records. I have taken the rows number 100 to 104 and stored its values in the data set. In this data set here, data set variable, then printed it and taken its first row and then passed the distance of the first row with all the remaining rows. So just wait it. Let me to check it. Okay, just wait. Right. You need to execute this cell in which the function is written. So now what we have done, we have executed a for loop, and this for loop we have called the Euclidean underscore distance method, and we have fixed the first row, and then this row is our variable. So 4 in row. This second row is our variable which will be taken from this data set, and this data set contains the record number 1002 104. Okay. And after checking this distance, what we are going to use? We are going to calculate the number neighbors. So for this purpose also we need some method. So to find out the neighbors, yes, please. Yes, Divakar Thakur. Is there any point? Okay. So we have written another method. Get underscore neighbors is the name of the method, name of the function, and we have passed training data, testing data, and the number of neighbors which we want. We want 2 neighbors, 5 neighbors, 10 neighbors. So this is the variable here. You can pass its value whenever you will call this method. Okay. So in the first statement under this function, we have created a list, empty list, and given it a name distances. Now we have executed a for loop on this first parameter train. For train underscore row is the variable name. This is the variable name. You can give any name to this variable. This train is the same here. This is the list. This is the variable name. You can give this name to you can give any name to this variable, but this should be same to this one. Now we have called the Euclidean underscore distance method on the test underscore row and the train row. Train row is my one row. So we have 5 rows or whatever number of rows you have in the training data. Each by each, this row will be passed to the Euclidean underscore distance method, and the distance will be calculated and will be stored in this one. And then the distance along with the row, along with the train row, okay, will be stored in this list variable, which is distances. So we are appending the data training row and its distance with the test row. And then we printed it here and we are just checking it. So you can execute this one. And in the whenever we calculate the distance of the test row with all the training row, we need to sort it out. For the sorting purpose, we have a sort method in the list. This distances is my list. List is one of the data structure available in Python, so you can directly create the list by using the constructor of the list class. Okay. Okay. Then we have this one procedure which I don't know you have used it or not. We have some variable key or key1, you can give any name, equal to lambda. Lambda is a very good functionality in Python. You can create a function without giving any name. With the help of the lambda, you can say it is an anonymous function. And this is the one statement under this one, and this is the second statement. So after colon, you can write the statement whatever you want. Okay. So whatever we will pass to this sort, we are passing the distances to this sort method, and the zeroth part of the distances is the training row, and first part, one part is the distance. So we are executing the loop, or we are executing the sort method on the second one. So we have used this one here. Okay. And then just to append all distances in a single variable, we have created another list which is neighbors. Okay, so all neighbors, they have been stored in the neighbors list. Distance is stored in the distances, and on the basis of the sorted data, all neighbors have been stored in the second list, which is list type variable having name as neighbors. So if we execute this one, we need to call it basically. This has not been called. We need to call it. Let me to call this function. Okay. So I have called this function by writing this command get underscore neighbors. This is my data set and this is the first row of the data set and number of neighbors are 3. Number of neighbors are 3. And then we have executed a loop for this part, neighbors part. So we have 3 neighbors of this first row, which is 100th rows. So you can say if I am removing this print part, okay, let me to execute it again. Okay, so these are the 3 neighbors of 100th row, and we have passed 5 rows. So you can say this is my first row. This is second row, this is third row, fourth row, and this is the 5th one. And I have taken the first row as the test row. So you can say the first row will have the distance with itself as a 0 only. So we have 0 here. And this first row will have the distance of this value with the second row. Then with the third row, fourth row, and 5th row. So this is our list of the distances of the first row with the remaining rows. Okay, so on the basis of the closest values of the distance, it has written as the neighbors. So you can say this is a 0th distance with itself only, and on the second point we have this one 6.5, 3, 5.8, 2.2. Okay, and on the third number this is the second last row. So this method has returned 3 nearest neighbors, including itself, including the testing row itself. Is there any doubt in these 2 methods? I can revise any of the statement written in these 2 methods. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Okay. Okay, Tvisi Sharma. Okay. See, you can check this data. These are my 5 rows starting from row number 100 to row number 104. So we have taken the first row as the test row. Okay, and then we have calculated the distance of this row with the remaining rows. So distance of first row with itself will be 0 only, and the distance between first row and second row has been calculated to 1.3341 something, and the distance between first row and the third row is 0.9486. Distance between first row and the second last is 0.9, and the distance between the first one and the last one is 0.5099 something. So we have calculated the simple Euclidean distance, which I covered in the first part when we covered some numerical part there. So it is the same thing, and we have sorted this distance by using this expression dot sort method we have in the list. So this is our empty list. So we in the loop we have calculated these Euclidean distances and then sorted the distances by using the concept of lambda. This is the keyword in Python, LAMBDA, lambda. Okay, so lambda is used to define a function without giving any name to it. Anonymous type of function you can write by using this lambda feature. I have included one example in the slide part also, which I will cover after this one. So lambda is a very good feature. If you don't want to give any name to your function, you can write it lambda and then write the statements which you want in your function, anonymous function. So what I want, basically, I want a second part to be sorted. Why second part? Yes, please, who will explain why second part? Jaspreet, why this second part? Why var 1? Why not var 0? Geeta Kochar, Sanket Mathur. Yes, please. Who will explain why I am using the second part? Answer you can find out from the given block of code. Ravi Dutt. Zero, no, Satvinder, no. You just look into the structure of the distances. Right, Tawasi Sharma, right. तरुण जी गलत है आपका आंसर भाई, because it is the Euclidean distance का कोई मतलब नहीं है. You go into the structure of this list. Distances का क्या structure है? You go in that structure. You have to look this statement. Okay. So what is the first part of my list? Right. Because in the first part, in the var 0, you can say is our row itself. And we are going to use the distance as the sorting criteria. Right now. And even we cannot use the first one because it is a collection of 4 features. 4 independent features. Right. So we have this data only which will help us in sorting the neighbors. Is it okay? Okay, Sanket. Right. Now let me to make the prediction. So I will have to write another function to make the prediction. And the name of the function is given as predict underscore classification. And what we have passed to it, we have passed the training data, we have passed the test row, and we can pass the third parameter as the number of neighbors. Okay. Yes, please.
यही क्लास की है.
Anji. So let's execute this part first and then we will discuss what is in this part. So in the first statement under this function, no talking, please. Ankush Sharma ji, please. Okay. In the first statement of this function, we have collected the neighbors of the test row from the training data, and the number of neighbors will be this number only.
अरे यार मेरी ऑन थी, मैं अभी
Ankush, mute yourself. Okay. So first statement is returning the neighbors of test row from the training data, training part of our data, and how many neighbors we are fetching, that depend on this parameter, third parameter, and we are just printing it. And then we have taken the output, rows -1, 4 row neighbors. What it means? -1 means last column. Okay, last column of the neighbors. Right. And then in the second last statement, what we have done, we have fetched the maximum rows, maximum type of the class by taking the count from the output underscore values. So this is the last column of our data, 2, 2, 2. Okay. So we have calculated the maximum value of the given class by using this statement. This set, we have created it as a set variable, set data structure, and key is the, what is the basis of this maximum value finding out procedure? Count of the variables. For example, if we could have 1 as a class, 2 and 2, then the maximum value will be for the class 2. Okay. So we have stored this as a prediction variable and then return it. So can you, is it okay? Yes, please. Anji, Geeta. Okay. Right, right. Just praise, where are you? These 5 lines are okay. Not 5, these are 4 basically. If we exclude the return statement. Okay, Sunny Rathi. But if I am executing this part, I am not getting any print. Right, Ansal Agarwal, very good. Very good, Ansal. Right, Vasi Sharma, right. This is not the class, this is a simple function. Right, Sanket, right. So let's do the required thing. Let's call this function. To call this function, we need to define the data set. You can say training data. Data we have defined here, first row, test row, and number of neighbors we have taken as 3. Right answer. So we have prediction in this variable, so let's call it. This is my array, from where I am getting this one. First printed statement, from where I am getting this print statement, I am getting from this one. So remove it. Execute it again. Okay. So first row was my expected value. Original basically. Original class was also 2. This is my original class as the last number, last variable, last column, which is the output column or dependent column. Okay, and we got the same 2 because all the neighbors are of class 2. All 3 neighbors are of class 2. Okay, so the output should be class 2, and we got the same thing here. So in this program, we have created our KNN model from the very scratch. What we did, I am just revising all necessary steps of this program. See, if you develop the model yourself, you can say from the very scratch, then it is a better for learning. You will learn a lot of things. Because you can observe that I have to write many statements in this program. While in the first one, I have just called the KNN neighbor KNN class, K neighbors classifier, which is the part of the this library. This one, sklearn.neighbors. We called the class and then created its object. But here we have to do everything ourselves. But you can observe that we are learning a lot of new things. We can learn a lot of things. And one more point, if every statement is clear to you, that I am just calling this function for a single row. Okay. So if I want to call this function, this program for a many of the testing row, I will have to call it in a for loop. This part you need to do yourself. I will share this file with all of you, including today's data set. I called in the first program, and these 2 programs I will share with you. So you have to extend this program for more than 1 row. This is very simple one. You just need to call this part, this predict underscore classification method in a row, in a for loop basically. Okay, and you can play with this program by changing this part of the data set. As I am taking my data from row number 100 to row number 105. Where is that part? कहाँ मैंने डेटा सेट is my data set. Just to it. Yeah, this is one. So I have taken the row number 100 to row number 104 only. So you can change this one. You change formula for the distance. You can use different type of the distance. We covered in the theory part, and you can change here number of neighbors. So you make the data set larger. You can take 20 or 25 rows here, just like this one. Okay, now we have taken 20 rows as the testing row, as the training row. So we need to call it again. 3 neighbors it have picked up. So you can observe that now the neighbors have been changed. But output we will get the same thing because all rows of my training data are of floor number 2. Okay, is it okay? Yes, please. See, there is one question. You can mix up the data. There are, Geeta, if there are multiple categories in output column, I have the multiple categories. I have categories 0, 1 and 2. But by chance, I am taking the data 1 category only. You can mix up the categories basically. can take some data from floor number 0, class number 0, class number 1 and class number 2. You can check it. आप कर सकते हैं यहाँ पे चेंज करके देखना जस्ट. So you can intermix the 3 classes here in place of taking 2. Okay, this I expect you will try yourself, and I will ask you in tomorrow lecture also. This will run for more than one class, and no need to change anything. You just need your to change your data set only. Is it okay? So let's do some other activity. This I have told you. Okay. So I have some questions for you people. Okay. Yes. What is the answer of this one? I am explaining this question. Which of the following model is used for predicting continuous dependent variable? B is linear regression. C means only 2. No. Preetiji answer is wrong. Visakha 1 means only 1. Right. Right. ठीक है. 1 and 2 is Pramod Sharma wrong. You know, for the linear regression problems, linear regression model, we need the continuous type data, and for the logistic regression, you know, we use the logistic regression for the classification problems, and for the classification problem we have the discrete data. Okay, so for the continuous type variable, what we need basically, what type of model we need? Only one. Okay, whenever we have the continuous data, for example, if we want to predict the price of a house, then it is a purely continuous type problem, and we can use linear regression only. But if we have the data in which the dependent variables, dependent data is of discrete type, then you can use it for the classification purpose. And you know very well that for classification we can use the logistic regression. So answer is B. Let's try another one. Oh, I have written the answer directly. Sorry. So just understand what is in this question. A correlation between age and health of a person found to be minus 1.09. And I told you the range of the this correlation coefficient is -1 to 1. It cannot be less than -1 and cannot be larger than this one. So this is the range of the continuous correlation coefficient. Okay. Now try this. Oh, very sad. Very sad. Let's discuss it again. I have written the answer here directly. So what is the question? That we have two plots here, and this is the regression line. Okay, so the point is how we calculate the distance. So we calculate the distance by using this effect only. That is the vertical offset only. We cannot find out the distance by using these perpendicular offsets. Okay, so this is not applicable to the linear regression. But this type of effect, which is the perpendicular offset types, they are applicable to many other problems, many other approaches. Just like in PCA, we use the perpendicular offsets to minimize the dimensions of the data. Okay, right. So now try to answer this one. This is the last question of today's lecture. B means kindly save the answer privately only. Let the others to think also. दीपांशु शर्मा जी, दूसरों को थोड़ा दिमाग लगाने दो यार. Meenakshi answer is wrong. Sanket Mathur answer is also wrong. Tarun Bhatia answer is okay. See, what is the question basically? We have a logistic regression model on our data and training accuracy as X and testing accuracy as Y. I hope you understand what is the meaning of this training accuracy and testing accuracy. Testing means we have the unseen data. Now we add one extra feature in our data set. It means we have appended one more column. Okay. So we are supposed to select the correct option. The options are training accuracy always decreases. Can we say it 100% that whenever we add one column in our data set, training accuracy always decreases? We cannot say this firmly. It may be sometime, it may decrease, but you cannot grant it. You can, this is wrong option. Training accuracy will remain same or will increase. The training accuracy will increase or will remain same. Okay. Third part is testing accuracy always decreases. We cannot say anything about this one. So testing accuracy will increase or will decrease. We cannot say. Why we cannot say? Because it is fully dependent on the feature. What is the significance of that feature? totally it is on dependent on the significance of the feature. If the feature is more significant, then testing accuracy may increase. Okay. But we can currently say that training accuracy will either increase or will remain the same thing. Because training part has been seen by our model. Training part is totally available to our model. It has seen the independent features of the training data as well as dependent feature. So it can learn what possibilities there for the training part, but the testing part is the unseen data. So it is purely dependent on the type of the feature. If the feature is very significant, you can say testing accuracy may increase, or if the feature is not so much significant, it may be that the testing accuracy may decrease as well as may remain same. You cannot say it firmly. So this one is only right. Testing accuracy may increase. So the A is our answer. Adding more features to the model will always increase the training accuracy. Okay. Right? Or in the worst case, it will remain the same thing, because this is the training part. Okay. Training part means you are showing your independent feature as well as dependent feature to the data. You are showing both part of your data to the model, so you have guarantee that it will either increase the training accuracy or training accuracy will remain same in the worst case. But we cannot guarantee about the testing accuracy. Testing accuracy will depend on the significance of the feature which has been added. Right? In coming lectures, we will discuss what is the significance of the feature, or you can say how can we say a particular feature is significant or not a significant one. Because in case of the real-time data, we will have many type of independent features, and some of the independent features may not be significant, so we can drop those insignificant features. So in the coming lectures we will discuss how to find out the significance of the independent features in a data set. So it is okay from my side? Yes, please. Any doubt, any question?